Hello, and welcome to the Environmental Affairs Lab at DFW Airport. As you all know, weather in Texas can be unpredictable. When the temperature drops, airlines de-ice aircraft with a chemical called glycol. In this video, we will show you what de-icing at DFW looks like and how the Environmental Affairs team works to responsibly dispose of glycol and keep it out of our storm drains and waterways.
Welcome to De-icing 101. I am Taylor Midkiff, and I am here with Ed Simon, our de-icing manager for our Environmental Affairs Department here at DFW Airport.
Hi, kids. I'm Ed Simon. I'm the environmental manager for DFW Airport.
So Ed here works on our de-icing program. He also works in our as the manager for our environmental emergency response program, and he's been here for long enough to be a bit of an expert on all of this. So Ed, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us and do this De-icing 101 video. So this picture I like to start out with because it shows why we do de-icing. And that is, of course, because of those lovely icicles hanging off the nose of this plane here. So Ed, do you want to talk a little bit about de-icing in general and why we do it?
Yes, Taylor. We do the icing to keep our aircraft safe during foul weather events here at the airport, and also to keep in line with the requirements of the FAA for de-icing aircraft.
That's great. And I know, this picture shows there's snow on the ground and icicles coming off of aircraft, and that might be a little bit of a rarity here when we have something that's severe at DFW. But we do have a pretty amazing staff prepared for any big event that Mother Nature might throw at us. We do have this great fleet of snow equipment that we use to clear runways and taxiways. So Ed, do you want to talk a little bit about the kinds of equipment we have, the snow equipment, to handle the things on the ground before we start getting into the aircraft side of things?
Yes, Taylor. Our ETAM department manages the fleet of de-icing equipment for DFW Airport, and they have a number of shovels, snow brooms, snow plows. We also have snow melting equipment as well to ensure that our taxiways and runways are kept clean during a snow event.
So have you seen these in action? I know we just had a big snow event in February of 2021. Did you see these in action? Have you seen all of these giant machines out there working hard to clear our taxiways?
Sure, I had the opportunity during our last snow event during February to watch all of these in action, and they worked great. They kept our runways clean and also our taxiways clear and ramp areas around the terminals clean to keep the airport running during the major snow event.
That's great. And I like this video just because it does show the parade of vehicles coming down ready to go and ready to march into battle against this snowstorm that we had just recently. And this video right here that I'm about to show is particularly cool because it shows the aircraft side of things. This is what it looks like when they're actually out there de-icing aircraft. So we actually, our environmental affairs team and our DFW airport team, we don't go out and spray the aircraft. That's something our airline partners do. So Ed, do you want to walk them through kind of what they're seeing and what goes on during a big snow event like this when we are actively de-icing aircraft?
Yes, Taylor, this is an active de-icing pad here at DFW Airport. This is what it looks like during a major de-icing event. You have the aircraft, you have the de-icing trucks that are spraying de-icing fluid onto the aircraft. You have the nose wheel markings. The pad site itself consists of like 10 slotted spots for aircraft to go to de-ice.
And this video here, you can see is taken from someone driving down this pad site. Is this all one pad site that we're looking at here?
Yes, this is one of our largest pad sites at DFW Airport. Like I said earlier, it could hold up to 10 or 11 aircraft at one time.
That's amazing. So this is very clearly a big event. There's snow on the ground. You can see the snow coming down. There's a lot of de-icing going on. Each of these de-icing trucks is manned by at least one person driving, and then there's one person up in the bucket or in that little capsule up there. And this is a better kind of zoomed in version. This is what it looks like just to even de-ice one aircraft. You can see all of the different people involved. So Ed, do you want to kind of talk through who all is at this de-icing activity site?
Sure, Taylor. You have the two de-icing trucks with drivers in those that has the fluid in the trucks, in the back of the trucks. You also have the one little car there that has the de-icing inspector that's ensuring that the fluid is being sprayed. You also have the two people that are in each of the buckets that are doing the actual spraying of the aircraft on this one pad site.
So this one shows another big view of just how massive some of these pad sites are and how many planes can be de-iced at any given time. So with this picture, I want to ask a little bit about the conditions that we see when we're doing de-icing at DFW. Is it always like this, where there's storming and it's, particularly dark and there's snow coming down and there's snow on the ground?
Taylor, no, we have de-icing in all types of weather here at DFW Airport. This is just one example of a winter weather event. However, during warmer days, when the temperatures are still in the low 30s, mid to low 30s, we still have active de-icing here at DFW Airport on a sunny day. We call that our frost de-icing events, where the pilot may only want the wing and the tail sprayed or the wheel sprayed before they taxi off to the runway.
That's great. Night and day, we're working on making sure your airplanes are nice and de-iced and safe with our airline partners. And the way we do that is to work with them to make sure that it happens on these 9 designated de-icing pad sites. So this map here shows you these orange areas are the pad sites. And that de-icing pad site is one of just 9 that we allow de-icing activities on. So the rest of this AOA, or our airfield operations area, is our runways, taxiways, and the ramp areas in between the terminals where planes are going to be taxiing around and taking off and landing. And this AOA area has storm drains all over it, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But it also has these de-icing pad sites. And what DFW Airport does, as we talked about earlier, we don't actually spray the planes, but what we do is manage that spent aircraft de-icing fluid. So we manage all of the anti-icing and de-icing chemicals for our airline partners, and anything that gets sprayed on DFW property will be sprayed on one of these pad sites. And that's particularly important because the release of pollutants into designated waters of the United States is regulated by the Federal Water Pollution Control Act of 1972. This is commonly referred to as the Clean Water Act. And the reason why we only let people de-ice on these 9 pad sites is because of the infrastructure that we have in place there. So if the goal is to keep our clean water safe, we have to make sure that it stays outside of the storm drain area and is only in these designated areas where we can capture it and collect it in our glycol collection system. So this is what an actual pad site looks like. Ed, do you want to talk about the features here that we have in place to help us collect this de-icing fluid?
Sure, Taylor. This is an example of one of our de-icing pad sites. They all are made with a collection system drain, like you see the picture up to the upper left, where there's a slotted drain down the middle of it with the plane that's going across the drain for them to de-ice the aircraft on. There's a nose wheel marking where the plane would stop to be de-iced. To the lower right-hand corner, you see a green light like a traffic light. When that green light is illuminated, that means the valves to those drains are plumbed. All the fluid that falls off the aircraft wing and nose goes into that drain, and it is captured into the de-icing capture system. When the green light is not illuminated, that means all the fluid that goes into that slot drain is going to the storm sewer system.
So like Ed just mentioned, we have 2 different pathways for any fluid that goes into that big long drain. So on our pad sites, we actually have 2 separate systems in place. We have one system that is our glycol collection system, and glycol is just the chemical that's used in de-icing fluid. So we have our de-icing fluid collection system. And we also have the stormwater system. So this map on the left shows those 2 systems, the orange and the yellow. So our orange pad sites are showing where people are allowed to de-ice, and those yellow lines show the pipes that we actually have plumbed to these different pad sites that collect glycol, or that de-icing fluid, that spent aircraft de-icing fluid. And then the blue lines here are that second pathway. So the blue lines represent our water, our storm water system. So as Ed was mentioning, if that green light is on, that means that the big old valve at that pad site has been turned to align the pad with our glycol collection system. If that green light is off, then that means the valve has been turned to our stormwater collection, or our stormwater system. And so the stormwater system actually leads off airport property, flows into our creeks and streams, out into the environment. And that is there so that we can drain off rainwater. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's stormwater collection system, or drainage system, I should say. And that water all goes back out into our creeks and streams, and is released into our environment. So Ed, do you want to talk a little bit about what we have in our collection system, what that is made up of, and why it's so important that we keep these two systems separate?
Okay, Taylor, yes, our collection system consists of our pad itself, the icing pad itself, underground storage tanks, the de-icing super pipe collection system, and also ponds and lagoons. This is where all the de-icing fluid goes when the pad is activated, when the green light is on. When the green light is not activated, when it's turned off and the pad is activated, aligned to the storm drains, nothing but storm water goes through those drains into the falls and creeks. If we allow a large amount of de-icing fluid to enter our storm sewers and also go to our creeks, it could lower the oxygen levels and also impact the aquatic life in those creeks and streams, which are fish and snails, snakes, and everything.
So we really work hard to make sure that none of that happens. So we make sure that everything goes to the proper place and is collected and stored, and then eventually disposed of properly and safely. And so one of the ways we do that is we offer de-icing training every year to our airline partners. Our airline partners are the ones that actually do the spraying of the planes. So we do offer some training on how to do that safely and make sure that we're not impacting the environment. So Ed, do you want to talk a little bit about what that training includes?
Yes, our training includes, we teach the airlines and the providers that de-ice aircraft how to manage de-icing fluid. We teach them how to make the proper notifications. We teach them about the green light being illuminated. We teach them to have an accredited supervisor within 500 feet of the de-icing activity. We teach them how not to have overspray and runoff from the de-icing pad areas as well. And we also teach them how to close out a de-icing pad and ensure that each pad is properly cleaned of all fluid before they leave the site.
That's great. And then once they've done all of this properly, you know, they've had their training, they've gone out and they've de-iced properly, the last step of our process at DFW is we actually track that de-icing data. So our airlines do send us a form that they fill out after every de-icing event. And what they do is they put down information for each and every plane, what that plane, where that plane is going. So they give us a flight number, they give us the tail number for the plane, the airline for that plane, and then how many gallons of de-icing fluid they actually sprayed on that plane. And the other piece of information that we get from them is how long it took them to de-ice that aircraft. So it's quite a bit of information that we're able to gather, and that helps us make decisions, and it helps us plan for future de-icing events. And mainly it helps us make sure that we actually captured everything that was sprayed. So we do have our collection system, and when we're able to take that fluid data, the gallons of fluid data that they actually sprayed, and then compare it to the gallons of fluid data that we have stored, we're able to make sure that we did, in fact, safely conduct de-icing activities and make sure that we protected our environment. So this picture I like because it really shows up close and personal some of the different things that we're looking at during that training and inspection period. So Ed, we actually do go out and inspect some of these different de-icing activities. Can you walk us through first the process that they have to go through in order to start de-icing, and then also some things that we look at if we were going to walk in as inspectors on their de-icing process?
Sure, Taylor. The first thing an airline has to do prior to de-icing an aircraft is to make the notification to request a designated de-icing pad. Following requesting a de-icing pad, they are allowed to go to one of the pad sites with their aircraft. The de-icing trucks are there, waiting for the aircraft most of the time, and they began de-icing. What we do as inspectors in EAD, we ensure that the airline has a accredited inspector within 500 feet of the operation, that the aircraft is parked on the right nose wheel marking, that the green light is illuminated, and that all the de-icing fluid is being contained or flowing into the proper drainage system during the activity.
So when you see a picture like this, one of the things that we've talked about is making sure that there isn't too much overspray, and that we're making sure that the glycol, which is that de-icing fluid, actually stays on the pad site. So one thing that I like to point out in a picture like this is something that many people may not know, which is that DFW actually has creeks, streams, we have grass, we have actually beautiful bluebonnets this time of year for spring. We have all kinds of trees and wildlife, and it's really important to protect all of that. And it's also, near and dear to us because it's so close to our actual runways. Now, we are very careful with those things. There's concerns with wildlife, et cetera, that we make sure it's separated, but we do want to be respectful of nature and make sure that this doesn't get out there, and that we dispose of this chemical properly. So when we're looking at something like this, Ed, what are some of the things as an inspector that you would remind these guys of, or some of the things that kind of stand out to you to look for in a picture like this?
Yeah, so we would ensure that the trucks are being positioned properly to ensure that the fluid is maintained within the pad site, that there's no runoff into the grass area that you see there. Any type of runoff into the grass area would be a threat to our storm sewer system. And also we're ensuring that, like I said earlier, the proper plane is parked on the proper nose wheel marking to ensure that the runoff is going into the drains.
Now, this is another great picture of some de-icing activity. And Ed, I think in this one, it's important to note that puddle. So can you talk a little bit about, as an inspector and also just as our de-icing manager managing that fluid, what you would do if you came across a situation like this?
Yes, if we come across a situation like this in EAD, we would ensure that this puddle that's collected underneath the plane is either pushed into the drain area or either cleaned up following the aircraft taxiing off the de-icing pad area by the airline. We have a cleanup crew that comes in behind the airlines and to kind of keep the pad clean. We sweep up and brush up, vacuum up all the residual de-icing fluid from the de-icing pad site to ensure cleanliness.
That's great. So this
Yes.
is what de-icing looks like at DFW Airport. We really appreciate you taking the time, Ed, to explain this to us and talk things through. And all of you watching at home, please do take the time to send us some questions if you have any, or learn more about different careers at DFW and other airports and airlines. There's a ton going on. There's de-icing, there's environmental affairs, and everything in between. So please keep an eye out. If there's something interesting that you'd like to know more of, please let us know. Thanks.
Thank you, kids.
Did you enjoy that video? Are you interested in learning more? Use our Ask a Scientist feature to email us questions and we will get back with you with the answer. Thank you for watching.